Tuesday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock in time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns have wrapped up practice for training camp for the day. Before practice, Browns owners Dee and Jimmy Haslam met with the media. One of the first questions that they asked was about the Browns being linked to Texas quarterback Arch Manning.
Jimmy, the season hasn't even started yet, and the Browns and you are already being linked to Arch Manning. Is this your comment about the buzz, the potential buzz as the season goes along?
Well, Tony, you know you're in the business, and you get paid by how many hits you get, okay? And I think if you know the Manning family, I would bet that, and I don't know Arch at all, okay? I bet he stays in college 2 years, so I don't even think that's worth discussing. So,
Jimmy, back in March, you talked about being patient about the quarterback. Does that patience also kind of extend to allowing Kevin the opportunity to, when you find that guy, have the opportunity to work with him?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Jimmy, what, in terms of wins, what would be a successful season?
Jeff, you really think we're going to answer that? You know, listen, we got to do better than 3, okay? To put a number on it, I don't think we will ever do that. Everybody, coaches, players, personnel, ownership, all knows that 3 and 14 won't cut it. We've got to do better. I think we'll know what better looks like.
Yeah, with the talent the Browns have, 3 and 14 definitely is not acceptable. They need better quarterback play, fewer turnovers, and fewer penalties. Monday morning quarterback Albert Breer with what he's heard relative to Shedeur Sanders being behind the rest of the quarterbacks in Browns camp and why that is.
It's the stuff you heard before the draft, Rich. You know, like, and look, like, I know people didn't like hearing it in March and April, but it was true. You know, like that there were a lot of teams that were surprised how far behind he was just from a football know-how standpoint, and that he had a long way to go in that department. And that held true when the Browns got him here. Not all his fault, you know, like different college offenses are run different ways, and you know what they were doing at Colorado evidently didn't translate to what Cleveland's doing. So he had the steepest learning curve by far of the 4 quarterbacks. Obviously Pickett and Flacco were rookies, and then Gabriel, it was a 6-year college guy that started games at 3 different schools, you know. So I think it would be to be expected that he would be behind the other 3 anyway. But you know, as I think me and a lot of other people had heard before the draft, he did have a ways to go in assimilating to the pros as a quarterback in general.
The other rookie quarterback, if you will, the one the Browns drafted in the 3rd round, Dillon Gabriel, a longtime Browns beat reporter, Tony Grossi, with his thoughts on where Dillon Gabriel is with the Browns.
I think he is going to be the backup at the start of the season, and I think he's earning their trust. I think he throws the ball excellent. He releases it well. It's a tight spiral. He sees the field quickly. He is really, really good at play faking, an essential part of this offense. And he can move around, and he's got a better arm than you would think a guy 5'10.5" would have. I can see why the Browns picked him ahead of Shedeur, okay? When you take into account his college career, which was much more productive than Shedeur's, he beats him every step of the way, okay?
But we don't play college football in the pros, and we don't play without pads on and tackling. So until I see live game action, I'm going to reserve I think my guy can play. I've said it a million times. Yeah, I want to see if Gabriel can play like that too. That's all. I just want to.
Well, turn on the Ohio State game and see if he can play.
Tony, they're not playing Ohio State. They're playing the Bengals in week 1.
Yeah, they're not playing Baylor either or Colorado State.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean,
you're basing your opinion
on
what Shedeur did at Colorado, where he was 13-11 as a starter, and he went to the Alamo Bowl.
There were a lot of great college players, Tony. Doesn't mean they're going to play well in the pros. We'll have to wait and see.
But you think Shedeur's going to play well in the pros?
And I don't know. I don't know if he
is.
I think he is.
You know he will. You said you know he will.
I kind of do know he will, but yeah, I've been wrong once or twice in my 40-year career.
Well, again, Monday morning quarterbacks Albert Breer with how he sees this Browns quarterback competition rounding out.
I mean, it sounds like it's still relatively wide open, and part of that is they haven't really gotten a great look at Joe Flacco yet. And that's because essentially, and I think I've used this term with you before, he essentially got a first-round bye through the beginning of the competition. They felt like they knew what he could do, and they had a good idea of what he would look like within the offense. And so Rather than wasting the reps in the spring, they used the reps they would give him to get a look at Kenny Pickett and Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. And so now they're going to another phase of the competition. They've been doing 2-spot drills until now, which means they've got 2 practice fields going at once to try to get the best look they can at the quarterbacks. Now they're going into this phase where it's going to normalize a little bit because they're in pads. They can't do that quite as much because it'd be too much on the other players. I'd say as of right now, Kenny Pickett's going to be out for about a week with the hamstring injury. Flacco's doing well. I think those 2 are ahead. I think Dylan Gabriel is probably closer to those 2, and Shedeur still has a ways to go. But I think based on his starting point, Shedeur's actually made a lot of progress. He was just pretty far behind when he first showed up here.
Offensive line coach Mike Bloomgren was asked what he has seen in the early going with DeJuan Jones, who's getting a shot at left tackle.
Yeah, I think since I've gotten here, I've seen that commitment to become a better version of himself, and that's what we're all trying to do. So that's great. Impressions in the early practice, I think Friday was probably his best practice all told since I've been here, and that's obviously a very good sign. Now we got to build on it today, because just like everybody in this room, what we got to hunt in these dog days in this phase of this training camp is consistency. And, as an offensive lineman, you can have 58 perfect plays and 2 really bad ones, and that's a really bad deal for our football team. So consistency is the thing we're striving for this week.
What made Friday his best practice so far?
The kid came out and played well. He really just did. I mean, he made a commitment. Once again, we talked about this last time I was in front of you. There's so many good things in the package that is DeJuan Jones, and it's our job and it's our collective job and his job to get those things out of him.
Other than quarterback, the Browns need to get a definitive answer on if DeJuan Jones can play tackle in the NFL, left tackle, right tackle. They have to see, is he an acceptable NFL tackle? It's one of the biggest questions they have to answer this season. The secondary also needs to rebound from what was a disappointing season for them last year. Martin Emerson is in the final year of his rookie contract. He talked about how he is personally trying to rebound from what was a disappointing season for him.
Just did a lot of soul searching, honestly, this offseason. It was the toughest year I ever had, team-wise and also personal performance. So I just got into the lab, man, and worked my tail off, and so I can put myself in the best situation for my team, but also my family.
Why do you think last season did not go as well as you thought?
I'll probably say mental, routine, and injuries also, just staying healthy.
Coach mentioned that you've been putting in a ton of work just throughout the whole offseason. What does that work look like for you as you look to maybe bounce back?
I can say a lot of things, but I really, just let my play style this year. Just go have fun and just cut the tape on, they'll see.
When you say mental and routine, did something change? Did you do something differently? What do you mean when you say that?
I would say I always faced adversity my whole career, but it was it was a lot of adversity, man. Every year, I mean, not every year, but every week it was something new. My body, it just wasn't holding up as much as the previous years, and I think that probably will go back to the training I did that off season, and that's what I'll probably say.
So what did you change?
Hit the weights, man, way harder. Worked on my endurance, worked on longevity, just everything, just my hips, mobility, my shoulders, just everything I could think of that I feel like I should improve to help my game translate to the field, to be better for the team. I did.
Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski talked about how he has seen the run game develop as they install it, as well as how the defensive line has performed early in training camp.
We're in our installation schedule, so yesterday was some more of our gap scheme runs that typically are inside runs, but we had a decent amount of outside runs as well. We didn't get out there very often because the D-line was living in the backfield. We're continuing on the installation with both offense and defense, really, I'd say over the next couple days, and then we'll be through our installs, and then the coaches will kind of move around. But I think you'll see more and more situational football start popping up here today, tomorrow, and as we go.
We'll have more on the Browns a little bit later in the show. Pete Smith will join us. We'll also hear more from Browns owner Jimmy Haslam. Let's turn our attention to the Guardians. Earlier in the day, the Guardians found out that Emmanuel Clase was part of that sports betting investigation. MLB put him on the paid administrative leave pending the investigation into sports betting. At night, they had to open up a 3-game series at Progressive Field against the Colorado Rockies. Rockies took the early lead. Then in the 5th inning, former Guardian Tyler Freeman, RBI single to left field. It will bring in another to make it a 2-0 Rockies lead. In the 6th inning, Warman Bernabel at the plate for the Rockies with that 2-0 lead. And Bernabel gets one out over the plate, and he destroys it. A solo home run to left to make it 3-0 Colorado with the lead. 7th inning, a couple of men on. Bo Naylor pinch hitting and coming through. A deep home run to right center, a 3-run blast, ties the game up at 3. In the 7th inning, Daniel Schneemann, an RBI single up the middle to give the Guardians a 5-3 lead. Top of the 8th, Hunter Goodman, the catcher. That one is headed to the seats and left. A solo blast makes it 5-4. In the 9th, Brenton Doyle, sacrifice bunt, and it is thrown away by Cade Smith. Run scores on the air to tie the game up at 5. Tyler Freeman doing it again. RBI single, 6-5 Rockies. And Cade Smith unable to close the door, a blown save, and then Hunter Goodman with what goes as an RBI double. 8-5 Rockies. The Guardians tack one on in the bottom of the 9th, but they lose it on a blown save. 8-6. The Rockies defeat the Guardians. Same 2 teams will be at it tonight over at Progressive Field. Logan Allen and Tanner Gordon, the starting pitchers. Again, Guardians kind of falling back in that wild card race. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Lance Reisland joins us from Browns training facility in Berea to talk Browns training camp. Straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
You got so much to do. It's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day. 'Cause it's fun all over the state. So come on.
Sports4CLE continues. Let's head out to the Browns training facility where training camp for the day wrapped up a little bit ago. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Lance, as always, appreciate you joining us. MJ Emerson needed help off the field. What happened? And I know there's probably no update yet, but what did you see with Emerson?
Well, it was interesting. So it was a 7-on-7. They were doing a lot of situational stuff like end of game, like we got to get a field goal or we got to run the field goal team out with no timeouts. Situational football with the 2-minute drill. It was a 7-on-7 drill, and I actually was filming Fannin, who the ball went to. The ball wasn't even going to the guy Emerson was covering. It seemed like a knee injury when he was down. It happened right in front of me, and it seemed like it was the back of his knee. Obviously, I don't like to speculate because, knees are weird. Sometimes they look terrible and they're fine. Sometimes they don't look like anything and it's bad. So wait till it see what happened. He did not seem very happy, had the towel over his head. He was playing very well. He had they had a pretty good day today, a lot of situational stuff, but it looks like I would say it looks like a knee injury from what he grabbed right in front of me. We'll know more, obviously. You'll know as soon as I do in terms of like what happened actually.
Yeah, and we heard from him earlier today about how hard he worked to get and rebound from what was a disappointing year. So hopefully, you hope he can get back out there relatively quickly. Just other than that, that's the big news. What are some of the takeaways from today?
Well, there were no pads today. Luckily, it was yesterday was like air. I was complaining yesterday about the heat, right? Well, yesterday was like air conditioning, like today compared to today. It was really, really hot. Again, I thought really because of the fact that it was the second day, they didn't have pads on, but they had pads on yesterday. I thought their energy was very good today. Sometimes the second day, I don't care what level of football it is, once you get to that day after pads, sometimes you get a letdown, right? Because you're excited to put the pads on, and then all of a sudden the reality kind of kicks in that you're in full pads now for a number of weeks, and it takes a little bit of wear and tear on your body. I thought they had good energy. I thought the quarterbacks looked good. The first 11 on 11 session, I thought the offensive line did much better. Those edge rushers are causing a lot of problems right now for the tackles. They're getting off the ball. Alex Wright had a really good day. Shelby Harris was in the backfield a bunch. Miles lives there, but he lives there on everybody. So a lot of situational football, end of game. 2-minute drill where you got to get in position for a field goal or emergency field goal. Really well organized practice with no pads. A little bit shorter than yesterday, and then tomorrow they crank it back up again with pads.
Relative to the quarterbacks, some observations just about the quarterbacks for today. Everybody's gonna ask about it anyway. So the observations from the quarterback. I'm not expecting completion percentage or any of that. Just what you saw.
Well, here's some people out here talking today about completion percentage. And for me, it's just kind of blown out of proportion because of the fact it's situational football. So sometimes a guy will throw 3 touchdowns, but they're on the 5-yard line going in. So, again, I thought the quarterbacks in the first session did a really nice job. But as a whole, all 3 of them did a really nice job. Now, yesterday, Sanders, I thought, was a little bit better than he was today. And it kind of went the opposite for Gabriel. He was not real good yesterday, and I thought he was pretty sharp today. Did a good job of moving. The thing I liked most about what they did with Gabriel today, they really moved his launch point. If you're going to draft a guy who's 5'11", you better make sure that you create lanes for him. And they did a nice job of that. Sanders had some, once again, had some pressure issues, struggled with his footwork a little bit in the pocket. Some of those old habits that, Sanders has really got to be fundamentally sound to create force on that football. He's got to use his whole weight. He's not an arm thrower. He's not an arm talent guy. So when his footwork isn't right, you can tell the delivery of his ball is not as good. But again, I thought they looked sharper. I thought as a whole, the offense looked pretty good. Couple offsides penalties early. Those things will happen. Hopefully they clear those things up, but a pretty solid day. Again, I would say the defense won, but without pads, it's tough to tell. I thought both sides flew around and had a pretty solid day.
Jerome Ford back in team type drills, although not in pads, but is he making progress towards getting back and doing everything that Kevin Stefanski and the offense want him to do you think?
Well, if he's hurt, I made a point today to try to watch him today because everybody was talking about him yesterday. I wanted to see just his gait and how he handled himself in individual drills, how he walked out of the locker room, and I stood right next to him, and he looks fine. He was in every drill. He ran some team drills. He looks explosive, all those things you expect out of Jerome Ford. He did those today. I think he's fine. He looks fine, and if he's hurt, obviously they must think it's okay because he looked explosive today. I thought the backs did a nice job today. Their backs are doing a good job of catching the ball in the backfield. The offensive line, they're running the ball better outside than they are inside. There's still a big struggle inside. That's got to improve over camp. That's what I'll be watching tomorrow with the pads go on, that physicality inside between A and B gap.
When you talk about the defense, one of the guys that people are saying is flashing is Carson Schlesinger. What have you seen from him? I know it's early. There's been, one padded practice, but what have you seen from Schlesinger?
Well, what you can get out of no pads is you can get movement skills, and this kid has elite movement skills side to side. He's very instinctive. So when you talk about leading the country last year in solo tackles, you see why. The thing that I like about him is that he kind of learns from his mistakes. So he had probably the best hit yesterday in practice, but the very next play he was played too high, and he came on a blitz, and Teller let him know what a pro is, right? So there's some things he's got to work on consistency wise, but his movement skills and his instincts, the kind of what I saw on film and kind of what I wrote when we before the season started, those are all, you can see all those things. He instinctually moves well side to side. He's got good explosion, short area burst, all those measurables we talk about. But more importantly, he's got all those, but he's a really good football player, and you can see it. He's a good leader. He's unassuming. He's smart. Really, really like him. He's going to hopefully soften the blow of not having JOK and Hicks retiring.
You look at him, and it looks like he might be the middle linebacker, the Mike. How imposing is that? He's big. He is much bigger than the typical middle linebacker.
Well, he moves like a little guy, I'll tell you that. But the thing you're saying, his lower half, he's got some tree trunks on him now. This is during rookie camp. When I scouted him, watching film from UCLA, you saw a speedy kind of guy. I thought he had more of a JOK build. And I was, once again, I'm as wrong as anybody else sometimes when I'm watching film. His lower half, he has done a great job of getting himself thicker to be able to play for 17 games. His lower half, he's got, like I said, tree trunks, which will help him, especially with the contact. But this guy likes contact. He moves very well. He's going to be a very, very good linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. A guy that I didn't do a ton of work on leading into the draft, and I've done more work on now, but he's a really good football player. He plays much older than his age when he's out there for sure.
Under the radar guys, who are some guys that are fighting to find a way onto the 53 or the practice squad that continue to show up?
Well, like the receivers is my thing, right? I thought Thrash had a pretty good day today. I thought he had his best day today. Deontay Johnson was again good today. Florio was good today. So I am thinking, is this receiver class, can it be a little bit better than people think? I don't know. They were pretty good today. I was pretty excited to see Damari Thrash catch some. He caught a lot of over routes today, a lot of routes at about 12 to 15 yards, those chunk plays. I thought he did a really nice job. Obviously, he's fighting for a job because Florio is really good. Cage Larvadane, he's another guy. He's a receiver that just keeps making play. He's undersized from South Carolina. I didn't do a lot of work on him. He's really made some flashes too. It'll be interesting how many quarterbacks they keep. Does that kick a receiver out? The defensive line. The defensive line is loaded, and you got guys. The reason the second offensive line is struggling so much is they're going against starters. That second defensive line with Wright and those guys, they're really good. So who's going to be there in the defensive line? How many are they keeping? It'll be interesting, like Zach Zinter. Zach Zinter, he's in a fight with some guys, Cam Thomas and some other guys. So I'll be focused on him. I'm really focused on the trenches tomorrow. But the depth on the offense and defensive lines are going to be interesting, and that receiver position moving forward continues to intrigue me. And these guys are a little bit better than people think.
All right, before I let you go, you mentioned it. They're back in pads tomorrow. Take us through some of the things you're paying attention to that you're going to want to see as well.
Well, again, now you're in the third day, right? So you had pads on, and then you had an extremely hot practice today. So the first thing before football is, what is the energy level? What is the attention to detail? What is the passion? What is the sense of urgency? When people say you're not very good, my dad always said you prove them right or prove them wrong. So these days, like tomorrow's going to be a tough wake up. They're going to be sore young men. So they gotta manufacture and get themselves going. Martin Emerson looks like he might be out for a little bit. They got to kind of get over that. They were very emotional after his loss. He's been great in practice. So that would be the non-football stuff. The football stuff is going to be, the focus is going to be that offense and defensive line and who's controlling the line of scrimmage. Can the offensive line improve their pass protection and movement inside? They run the ball fairly well outside. Can they improve that A and B gap with those big double teams? So this defensive line is making it tough on them. So that's where my focus will be. I'll start on the defensive line, but I'm going to watch mostly the big boys tomorrow and see who's winning that physicality inside.
Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. As always, great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland. Make sure you check him out. Great stuff. Cleveland.com as well as the Plain Dealer joining us from the Browns training camp. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report up next on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's welcome in Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report. Pete, let's talk a little bit of Kenny Pickett injury over the weekend. I know you wrote an article about it, just the timing of it and the quarterback competition. Take us through your thoughts on that and the article.
Well, I mean, so many people have been criticizing the Browns for having four quarterbacks and trying to rep four quarterbacks. So the second they're about to put on pads to have Kenny Pickett go down with a hamstring injury, which is sort of vague and could linger or heal fast depending on how other people perform. It sort of works out. You get Joe Flacco to take largely the veteran reps, and then you get more of an opportunity to look at the two rookies, which just from a fan perspective is probably what everybody wants anyway, just to see more of them as much as possible. It's not to say people dislike Kenny Pickett. I just think he's probably, by and large, the least exciting answer for people. So it works out from that standpoint. They have three quarterbacks. And if Kenny Pickett is, in stasis, sort of locked away, it ensures that there's a possibility they could trade him down the road. He can't get any more hurt, theoretically. And because of what I think are likely to be two suspensions on this roster between Quinshon Judkins and Devin Bush, it's going to be very easy for them to keep 53, all four quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. So if you're a team that's sort of looking at it, let's say Tennessee, who lost Will Levis for the year, or a lot of people like New Orleans as an option, or somebody else, they have to be a little bit more serious with potentially trying to trade for them as opposed to hoping that the Browns sort of cut him and then grab him that way.
What have you thought about the reports that Shedeur Sanders is making progress? And we heard earlier from Albert Breer that, there was talk in league circles that he started out kind of behind just because of the offense that you're in Colorado. What do you make of the progress that he's made throughout training camp and even mini camp?
Well, the first thing that stands out to me is I think he made the most of the month away from the team. Like, you go through the rookie minicamp and the minicamp stuff, the OTAs, all that, and you sort of get your grounding in the offense. And then you get that month away from the team. And I think, the Browns wanted to see what the three quarterbacks could sort of, not named Joe Flacco, could make with that time. It seems like Shedeur, who may have had the most ground to gain in terms of knowledge, I think capitalized on it. And now you're starting to see a little bit more confidence in some of the throws he's making. I'm not going to get too caught up in the numbers I see put out there, but a couple really nice throws down the field. He's doing what he's supposed to, making the plays, hopefully, that the Browns want him to make. And if he continues to do that, then it's hopefully going to give him more opportunities to continue growing, which is all anyone can really ask from him.
Yeah, and I'm with you with the numbers. I mean, I get the thought behind you want to quantify other than he looked good, but the numbers, they don't translate in what they're doing. And really, even in training camp in general, they don't completion percentage and all that doesn't translate. Is he making good throws? Is he throwing difficult throws, NFL-type throws? That's what you want to see.
Well, I mean, there's just a lot of different ways you can do it. I mean, with the Browns and these rookies, you probably want them to experience as much success as possible and build on it. But let's say, one of these guys with the unquestioned starter, maybe the Browns want them to push a little bit and test some of the windows they might throw. And that might result in some incompletions or interceptions. And that might be exactly what they want to sort of figure out. It really comes down to, what is Kevin Stefanski? What is Tommy Rees? What is Bill Musgrave asking of these guys? And if they're executing, if ultimately it's difficult to sort of suss out. But I mean, if any quarterback, not to pick on Shedeur, if he throws a 2-yard check down, maybe that's the right play, but maybe he's missing something else down the field. All we can ask for is that he continues to grow in what they're asking him to do. And if he does that, I think he's going to continue to get more opportunities to prove himself, and especially when we get into the preseason.
Yeah, and again, there's a segment of the fan base that thinks that the Browns are trying to hold him back. They want any answer that is a good NFL quarterback. Doesn't matter who it is, be a good NFL quarterback. That's what the Browns have been looking for, really, since Bernie Kosar.
And especially if it's a rookie. I mean, if one of those rookies has real talent, it changes the entire fortune of the franchise. If the comparison right now is everybody's making it to Jaden Daniels because he was such a sensation last year and took the Commanders to the NFC Championship, by and large, on a team that most people thought was going to be near the bottom of the league. So if you can get that type of impact from any rookies, it changes everything about the organization, how everybody feels about this team, whether or not they can be a playoff team, what those first-round picks mean for next year and what you can do with them. So they want these guys to succeed. And obviously Bill Musgrave has a personal relationship with Deion Sanders. I mean, it's bizarre to me that there's this conspiracy that the Browns are trying to hold back somebody they took the time to draft, have people with familiarity with both with the father, and just they need any success they can get. Why would they punish the kid, punish themselves if he's got real ability?
Yeah, I would agree. Tell me if this makes sense to you. My thought with the Browns and quarterback, they have so many young skill position guys. The running backs, Fannin, even Jamari Thrash. You almost have to have a Joe Flacco type who can allow them to play fast and who understands things and can process what's going on quickly in order to get a good read of what you got at the skill positions. Does that make sense to you, even at the offensive line?
Yes, I mean, to the extent that if Joe Flacco can allow those guys to do what they need to do, to look the way they need to look, to either sink or swim, that's incredibly important. What you don't want to have happen, we saw this happen last year with Deshaun Watson and DTR at points, was the quarterback is holding up everybody else and you get nothing. So we obviously watched this with Jerry Jeudy where he sort of floundered a little bit, and then all of a sudden Jameis Winston's in there giving him chances to make plays, and now he's one of the best receivers in the league. Who's to know what Harold Fannin might do? I mean, it seems like he's talented and everything else, or Dylan Sampson or Jamari Thrash. You go down the list. But if they just throw a rookie in there or Kenny Pickett or whoever, and they can't make the offense function, then you're not getting a true read on them. So not only are we not seeing good quarterback play, we're also missing out on potentially real development from guys that they need to be successful both now and heading into the future.
So by most accounts, the receiving core of the Browns is among the bottom of the league. Who are some guys that you think could take a step forward this year? And either the rookies that are kind of the undrafted draft picks from last year, who are some guys you're kind of paying attention to that you think could take a step or two forward for the Browns receiving core?
Well, I mean, Jamari Thrash is certainly the guy who's got the early favorite from that standpoint, given that he's been in the system for a year. There were a lot of people who thought he may have been drafted a little bit later than he otherwise deserved based on his ability. He seems to fit the system, and there's a lot of reasons to like him. Inside, outside versatility. But when you get into sort of the undrafted free agents, I hope, one of those guys can really earn a role. I hope we don't get into an unrealistic territory where we're starting to talk ourselves into this like magical world where all these guys are going to come in and make a whole lot of plays. I think best case scenario, one of those guys has a shot at the active roster. Luke Flourier is interesting. I'm very curious to see how he continues to go with pads. He's 5'8", barely 179 pounds. If he can hold up and continue to make plays in that atmosphere, it's going to be great for him. If it's Keyshawn Johnson, he's more of an X outside type receiver who can do some things with size. He's at least intriguing. Cade McDonald has some of the same qualities as Luke Flourier. He's a little bit bigger, but it doesn't seem like he's sort of really splashed the way that maybe Flourier has early. Maybe he's going to pick it up a little bit, but I think most of those guys, their best hope is the practice squad, but maybe you get one of those guys can be a nice little story who can contribute and find a real role.
Yeah, the Floria in the slot is intriguing, but again, we until they get pads on and are going full speed, and I think probably the joint practices are going to be the things that are important for guys that are trying to show that they can actually do this in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, there's two elements at work here. How good is the Browns defense? I mean, if they're really suffocating defense and somebody like Luke Flourier is doing really well, that could mean really good things. And maybe we get to the joint practice with either Carolina or the defending Super Bowl champions, and it's confirmation that he really is a good player. Maybe has a great practice against Carolina or something like that. I think getting different talent is going to hopefully give us a little bit of contrast and maybe a better feel. And then obviously the preseason is another area where those guys can shine. But the joint practices, because they're not taped, you generally get the other team's best, more scheme, really trying to win in that scenario. And that's a really good read on where you're at as a football team.
All right. Before we go to break, the other question offensively is how you divvy up the carries. Now that it looks like Junkins is going to get some sort of league suspension. How do you divvy him up? Who gets the lion's share of them? How does that work with what they have in the backfield? And do you expect them to add to it?
Well, I think Jerome Ford's going to be the guy who sort of steps back into the bell cow type role in as much as there is that role. He has the size that sort of befits that number one role, can take more carries, and more importantly, can stay in and pass block. Dylan Sampson's going to have a tough time at 5'8", 200 pounds staying in. Now, and the other question with Dylan Sampson is, are they going to use him for other things? They may put him in the slot. They may use him as a jet player. They may create some touches that are sort of outside to see if he can't create a spark there. But it's really difficult to just live in a world where Dylan Sampson's sort of your every down running back because of things like pass protection and that element, just his overall size. And then we'll see whether it's the UFL kid they signed or they're going to bring in what seems most likely to be potentially a trade guy that isn't going to make our team for a guy that isn't going to make your team type move, or a waiver claim later to bolster it for the eventuality that Judkins is going to be suspended.
Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report. Now I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little defense. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
You got so much to do, it's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day, 'cause it's fun all over the state. So come on, great games wait for you and me, the Ohio Lottery. Put a little play in your day, put a little play in your day.
We continue talking Browns on Sports for CLE with Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report. Pete, I know you wrote an article about Carson Schlesinger. Take us through that in kind of your thoughts about Schlesinger and the opportunity that exists for him here with the Browns.
So coming into the season, I thought he was going to likely start at will with the plan that he was eventually going to take over as the starting Mike because they had Jordan Hicks. Now that Jordan Hicks has decided to retire, everything points to the Browns are just going to say, we're putting Carson Schlesinger in there at Mike linebacker. We're going to see if he can't absorb this, wear the green dot, and figure it out. And he has the talent to do it. He has the intelligence to do it. And frankly, if you're the stuff I've seen early from practices, he's flashed already. I mean, I know that he's got a little highlight hit on Dylan Sampson, but just some of him flying around, even on some highlights for other guys like Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel throwing a quick, little out pass, and suddenly you see a blur that is Carson Schlesinger in pursuit. That's the stuff that I think gets the Browns really excited, is how quickly he diagnoses and processes, inserts as a run defender with that. He's huge.
Yeah.
And they're using him as a blitzer quite a bit. And then just his size and range in the passing game is really intriguing. And if he can do it, how much that opens up for what this defense becomes. Jordan Hicks, phenomenal player who has had a terrific career. If not for his body, I think he could have played at a really high level until the age of 40. But, this sort of says the future is now. This is why we drafted you 33rd overall. We're just going to go ahead and roll with it.
Yeah, and you bring up the size, and that, that has the ability to be really problematic for an offense in the middle of your defense, because he can rush, he can drop, and he moves. He moves. He moves really well.
He's got the right combination of he's fast and he sees it well, so he can anticipate and beat guys to the spot. And when you've got the defensive line that this team is boasting, they're all worried about those guys, and all of a sudden you've got 242 pounds flying up in the middle, whether it's a blitz or in a run fit or whatever. That's the type of stuff that can get people really excited about a defense. I know it's not, the points and the offense everybody wants to see, but I genuinely believe that some of the stuff they have cooking on this defense is going to be a lot of fun if, everybody can stay healthy and they can just play to the level that I think that they have in them.
How concerned are you about the linebacking core? I think some people are forgetting Jerome Baker he's a competent NFL linebacker that they signed. Bush could get suspended. Just your thoughts on the depth of it, and how concerned are you with the linebacking core?
I'm not. I mean, the thing is, Jason Tarver to me is arguably the best assistant on the Browns coaching staff in terms of developing and coaching and getting play out of that position. And look, the signing of the signing of the former Ohio State Jerome Baker for that now at that will position looks very prescient. It seems like the Browns may have had an inkling that Hicks was going to retire, and they sort of planned ahead from that standpoint. So that's one good element. But the other thing is, I think they would love to see Mahmoud Diabate step up and earn that spot, have those two young linebackers work out. Diabate, the former undrafted free agent, 24 years old. He played over 500 snaps on defense last year. They cross-train their linebackers, so they do all of it. Has the athleticism Jim Schwartz craves. If he can find consistency, I think that's where they want to go. But Jerome Baker, offers them a very solid floor if Diabate can't do it, and just depth in general. They've got some other guys there, even without Hicks, JOK, and potentially if they lose Bush to a suspension. I don't worry about that position. They're still well above where they normally are in terms of an investment there, just with Schlesinger.
Defensive line seems to be ahead of pretty much every other unit on this team early on. How important is that for what this defense can be?
It's the whole thing. I mean, Jim Schwartz will talk about it endlessly, that's the engine. And I continue to believe that this is the first year that Jim Schwartz has the guys he really wants. That's not to say he didn't like the previous guys, Dalvin Tomlinson, some of these others, but just from a pure fit standpoint. Getting Mason Graham 5th overall, getting Mike Hall in the 2nd round last year, Juwan Briggs, Malik Collins they added this year, who I think is going to be very good for them. And obviously Myles Garrett is there, Isaiah McGuire coming off a strong year, hopefully Alex Wright, who's looked pretty interesting early on after missing most of last year with an injury, Joe Tryon. I mean, it's not just the fact that they have so many guys with talent, it's that they have so many guys, and that can sort of really ramp up the competition level from those guys, even though early on it seems like the defensive line is had their way with the offensive line. They have to prove it constantly because there's always another guy behind them trying to take their spot, take their reps.
So earlier we heard that, Martin Emerson went down. No report yet. Doesn't look good. What about this secondary? They didn't play really well. Emerson didn't have a great year. He talked today about wanting to bounce back. We'll see how that injury plays out. Greg Newsome's another guy, both kind of in contract years. How important is the secondary? The loss of Emerson obviously wouldn't be great, but they do have some guys that have played.
Right. So coming into the year, my thought was that they should basically have Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson compete for that outside corner job and may the best man win. And maybe one of those guys warrants a contract extension since both guys are in the last year of their deal. But if Martin Emerson is down for a significant amount of time, Greg Newsome's going to slot right back into the outside corner spot. And that may be the best thing for him in terms of where at least he feels like he should be. He has tremendous athletic ability. I mean, coming out of the draft and everything, he had everything you want at corner. He just needs to be more consistent. The other part of this is now what happens on the inside. And they've got a lot of bodies. It's a question of, can one of those guys step up? Can Kim Mitchell sort of really earn a role there? They've got Miles Harden that they drafted last year. They've got guys like Nick Needham. They signed Anthony Kendall as another guy like that. They've got these safety guys that can sort of operate as slot guys. And look, Denzel Ward is great, but there is a ton of pressure on the secondary to deliver because the Browns have invested in that position, in that group as a whole. And I don't think they've gotten quite the return that they wanted from it to this point, other than 2023. And realistically, a lot of that credit has to go to the defensive line. And certainly that's the design of the defense. They want the defensive line to make the job of the secondary that much easier. But if Emerson's situation is serious, it puts that much more pressure on the defensive line to be great, to make the life of the secondary easier, try to avoid some of the mistakes they have. They're counting on Ronnie Hickman, seemingly giving him every opportunity to take the free safety job. If he can do that, that would give them a nice boost as well.
So earlier, we heard Jimmy Haslam kind of skirt around the issue about expectations for the season this year. He didn't want to put a number on it in terms of wins. What about you? What do you think is realistic expectations for this Browns team trying to come back from a 3-14 season?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If I was to look at this season, I don't look at it as a number, although I do think there is a number they can't really go below. They can't be 3-14. But I think it's more of a, how does this team feel? Do they feel like they are fighting and they are facing 6 or 8 teams to start the year who are coming off 10-win seasons, and they're in it and they're battling, and maybe they steal 1 or 2 of these games? Or does it feel like we're even further away, that this offseason didn't deliver in the way that they were hoping to, either from a talent or mindset standpoint? They want to be more of a physical, tough-minded football team, shorten games, run the football, that type of stuff. If they can't start to show something, because we are getting very far away from the team that made the playoffs, not necessarily in terms of time, but in terms of roster. Like, you're potentially going to turn over so much of this offensive line in a year. You're going to have some of these other guys potentially at the end of their careers, or they're already gone, and it's going to be a whole lot of new players that haven't tasted that level of success. I don't think they can afford to just have a bunch of meaningless games and play out the string in December. I think they have to continue to have a mindset where it feels like they are fighting. And, I don't need them to necessarily, have that Eric Mangini 4-0 December with Josh Cribbs magically at quarterback, pulling out a bunch of wins that don't mean anything. But I think there has to be a sense that this team is building to something that with another offseason, there's genuinely reason to believe they can grow. If they can get great quarterback play, great. If they can't, they need to be in position where just about everything else looks like it's at least ready for a good quarterback to step in and help this team.
Pete Smith, Orange and Brown Report, as always. Great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it, Pete.
Thanks for having me.
Pete Smith, make sure you check him out. Always good Brown stuff for the Orange and Brown Report. We're going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear more from Jimmy and Dee Haslam, Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Browns owners Dee and Jimmy Haslam met with the media today, and we showed you a little bit of it earlier. The big question on a lot of fans' minds, what would be a successful season for the Browns this year?
Jimmy, what, in terms of wins, what would be a successful season?
Jeff, do you really think we're going to answer that? Listen, we got to do better than 3, okay? To put a number on it, I don't think we will ever do that. Everybody, coaches, players, personnel, ownership, all knows that 3-14 won't cut it. We've got to do better. I think we'll know what better looks like.
Jimmy, can you address how can you help fans to understand that you guys do care about the health and safety of women? Since you've had 3 guys since last year with domestic violence incidents.
Yeah, great question. Let me say it's extremely frustrating. Okay. Obviously, we're not communicating as well as we should, and we take responsibility for that. We have internal resources, we have external resources. We talk about it continually, and it's something that we need to do a better job on, but it is frustrating.
Yeah, it's a big focus for us in the organization, so thanks for asking.
The repeated incidents, 3 different players in a year, is that reflective of your team's vetting process?
That's a question I ask. Okay, let's go back and let's look at Keyshawn, let's look at Devin, let's look at Michael Hall, and there was, the best of my knowledge, and we talked about this yesterday with Andrew, there was nothing in any of their backgrounds that showed anything like this.
Have these incidents maybe changed your approach or maybe prompted more resources that you guys are looking into?
Well, I think whenever you're not successful, you got to take a step back and say, what can we do better? Okay, if you'd asked me a month ago, I would say, no, we're all over it. We talk about it continually. We've had outside speakers, inside speakers. We talk about it a lot, but clearly we need to look to see what else we can do. It's not acceptable.
Do you expect Quinshon Judkins to eventually sign and play for you?
I do, but that's, we all understand due process of law, and the law does not move quickly. But yes, we're cautiously optimistic.
Have you had any contact with Quinshon in the last month?
No.
We haven't talked to you since the draft. So can you explain why the Browns felt the need to draft Shedeur after drafting a quarterback in the third round and adding two guys?
Well, I think that's really more of an Andrew question, okay? But I think, what was that pick, 146? We thought he was good value at 146.
Jimmy, there's been kind of like a national narrative that you were the person who forced the Shedeur pick, or maybe people have called it the owner pick. What would you say to that?
Yeah, listen, we have good process, okay? And if you'd have told me, let's see, we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening. But we had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur. Just like who's going to start or what play we're going to call is Kevin's call. But that's Andrew's call. He made the call.
You obviously signed off on the trade on the first side of the draft.
Correct.
What was that a tough sell deal or an easy sell?
Those are hard decisions. Listen, Travis Hunter is a special football player, and I do think he can play both ways, and I think he'll do well. He's also a great kid. I mean, not a good, but a great kid. So we were locked in on that, and then the opportunity came up, and you go back three places, and we thought there were really good players, and we think we got a really good one in Mason, and then to add really almost a first-round pick with the 36th pick, and to have a number one next year, we just thought was too good to pass up. Time will tell whether we did the right thing or not.
Jimmy, last time we talked to you at the owners' meetings, you delivered the quote, heard around the NFL that Deshaun was a big swing and a miss. And, he's here, he's on PUP, and, do you see a world in which he ever can play football for you guys again?
I think it's premature. I don't think anything's changed on the Deshaun situation since we were together in March. I will say this, he's working hard on his rehab, and that's our focus, is to get him well and healthy, and then we'll make decisions after that.
What have you learned about owning a team since you bought one?
You think it doesn't look like very much. No, I say it's hard, and, you make mistakes, and the business world we come in, you can hire anytime you want to, okay? There's no seasonal, there's no draft, and so you can build a team over a period of time, almost at free. There's no draft, there's no free agency, there are no controls, so it's obviously not easy. We made the decision last year to take a step back after last year's disaster and looking at our roster and knowing that we needed a quarterback to do this over a 2 or 3 year period. It's too early to say, but we like our rookie group. We'll know a lot more, after we play 2 or 3 exhibition games and the young guys get to play a lot. But we like the group, and particularly if Q can come back, we like it a lot.
Jimmy, just with 4 quarterbacks battling it out, I know Kenny's hurt now, but it's so rare to see this many quarterbacks competing for a starting job on a team. Just how do you think Kevin and Andrew and everyone has sort of handled that in the early portion of camp?
Really well, and that was a concern we had. Like, how do you make sure everybody gets enough plays, enough looks, et cetera? And I hate it for Kenny because he played really well the 2 or 3 days before he got hurt, and there's nobody that wants to be part of the team more than Kenny. He's working hard, and I know he'll get back quickly, but I think so far they've handled it well. And something that Kevin and Andrew talk about weekly. Here's the plan for this week. And I think going to Carolina and scrimmaging and then playing, and then we're going to Philly and have 2 days of scrimmages and then playing. The young guys will get a lot of looks, as will the veterans in the scrimmages. So we'll know a lot more the next couple of weeks.
Another topic that was on the minds of everybody, Jimmy Haslam asked about the comments that the Browns were going to be patient this year with rebuilding the team, and what exactly that means.
Well, I think it's what we've just talked about. We realized that when we went 3-14, there was great uncertainty at quarterback. You probably weren't going to go 14-3, so let's try to build a team the right way. And I'm repeating myself, and it's premature, but I like the guys we picked, okay? and time will tell how good they are. But Mason, Carson, Fannin, Shedeur, Dylan, et cetera, look like Dylan Sampson, look like not only really good players but really good people. And I'll say this for the two quarterbacks coming in, and I know everybody has a vision of Shedeur, but he's come in the building and worked hard, kept his head down, and done what he's supposed to do, as has Dylan, which is no surprise for either of them.
Jimmy, how do you feel about how this organization has wrapped around the developmental part, getting guys ready, the depth piece?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's the challenge in sports, because if you're head coach, you're charged with winning every week, but you also want to develop young players, and I think Kevin has this period after, I think he calls it the hungry dog period, I might be wrong about that, but after practice where it might be 6 plays, might be 10 plays that they get plays in or extra work, and I think that's really important to develop young guys, because we saw it with 2 or 3 quarterbacks. Not everybody, particularly a quarterback, makes it the first year or two. And this is a big jump going from college to NFL, whether you're a quarterback or not. So I think we're doing a good job there, but time will tell.
Anything else football-wise? Jimmy, just kind of going back, you mentioned that 2 to 3 year window and kind of player development. Is there kind of an understanding that maybe this might take time for you guys to get back to?
Yeah, we talk about it openly. Now, could we take a big jump in 1 year? Yes, but we talk about we're not going to panic. We're going to draft good players. We're going to build through the draft. And next year we have 9 picks, including 2 ones. So that should help us. I think you have to realize that we went 3 years with no ones, and I think at least one of those years we didn't have a 2, and maybe 2 of those years. And that hurts you roster-wise. I mean, it just does. And the players that are available in the first round, the chances of them being successful are way better than second's better than third, et cetera. So we're going to continue to stockpile those draft picks.
With that type of philosophy,
that to get your message across to them that this is a building process, because you know how loyal they are and how frustrated.
Well, listen, we're frustrated too, and we share the fans' pain, okay? And Dee says this all the time. We're stewards of this franchise, and we need to do a better job. And we want to win for a lot of different reasons. The main reason we want to win is for our fans. They really do. We have great fans.
with that type of philosophy of sort of a little bit of a patient attitude for this season, what does that mean for Kevin Stefanski? Because people are already asking me if he's on the hot seat this year.
Yeah, and listen, we talk to you all fairly frequently, and we're very supportive of Kevin and Andrew. Now, do they need to do better? Yeah, but so do Dee and I, you know what I mean? And these are high-pressure jobs they have, but we really like them in their roles as coach and GM, and we really like them as people. Mm-hmm. And I say this all the time. They're 38 and 42 years old.
How much has that patient approach, how much have you guys kind of talked about your history owning the team? Just how much have you kind of learned that?
The hard way? Yeah, I think we did a poor job early on, and hopefully we're doing a better job now. And listen, we talk about it organizationally. This isn't just ownership, but we talk about it all Andrew's staff, all Kevin's staff. Everybody is aware of the plan.
In addition to the football topics and the questions on the season, Dee and Jimmy Haslam also asked about the new stadium project that they expect to get underway pretty quickly out in Brook Park.
Most appreciative of the state of Ohio, as we said earlier. What we said all along is we hope there was $600 million available locally. I think through Brook Park and the mechanisms we put in place, that's 300, so that leaves you 300 short. What I would say this big picture, and we never, I know it frustrates you all, we never want to front run the people. And so with the state of Ohio, we never talk publicly about how things might get financed. And by the way, our plan isn't what they used to come up with the $600 million. I don't want to do the same thing with the county. What I would say is now is the time to work together. Maybe it doesn't work out with the county, but now's the time to sit down and see if we can't work together. This is an important project. I don't think many other entities are spending $2 billion plus in this community.
And we are located in the county, so we will be working with the county.
And the mayor of Cleveland has said that he doesn't want his lakefront left without getting anything. Have you reached out to the mayor? And
yeah, I mean, I think we started with the vision of the lakefront a long time ago, and we believe strongly that the lakefront needs to be developed. I feel like we have put a lot of input and energy into what that vision could be. So we have not had further conversations recently, but we care about this community so deeply, and I think the lakefront is a really important part of that.
How confident are you that you'll be able to make the Brook Park project happen at this point?
Like 99.9.
No, we're very confident and very excited about it.
I mean, we can't be more confident. Let me say, these projects are really hard, okay? And the state's a hurdle. There's other hurdles. You got to work with DOT and rapid transit. You got to get your financing. You got to control costs. These are big, complicated projects. This is either the second or largest project in the state of Ohio history. So this is a complicated project. There's stuff going on. It's 3.5 years till the stadium opens, and we will have to work hard every day to get everything to come together.
What would you think groundbreaking would be?
Sometime next year.
Yeah.
So like February next year?
We're hoping sometime next year.
Yeah, that's fair.
So what do you make 9.9 on this? To get to that groundbreaking early next year, what in your mind is the timetable to know one way or the other whether the county's going to be part of this, whether this authority is going to be set up in Brook Park?
Let me say this.
What's the timetable to get to that groundbreaking?
Yeah, so we're going to have the groundbreaking regardless, okay? Let me say this, and I try to be very respectful of everybody. What we said is we can do the project without the county, okay? I think it's best if the county and HSG work together, okay? And I won't say anything more than that. I just think it's helpful in this community to work with the city, to work with the county, and to work with the other sports teams.
Jimmy, indeed, one of the chief points that the opposition to the Brook Park project kept making was that it would harm downtown Cleveland. Obviously, there's big plans for the riverfront, now the lakefront opening up. Just from your perspective, how confident are you that this region can support all three major developments and for them to be successful?
Yeah, they're all three very different. And we believe in Cleveland. We believe in a growth mindset. We believe in economic development. And we believe that this could be one of the greatest communities out there. But you have to have that vision and you have to have that growth mindset. And we believe that we can take care of our fans and provide economic development by doing the Brook Park project.
You're talking about.
Let me just say one more thing. Excuse me. I think of them as 4 different projects. Okay. The riverfront project that Bedrock's doing is already underway, right? We got a good start with their practice facility and the clinic facility, okay? That's probably a 15, 20-year project, okay? The lakefront, due to the fact that we're going to be playing there through 28, probably, and you have to get the infrastructure in place, doesn't start until 29 or 30, which is, basically 5 years from now, okay? Our project will start late this fall, early next year, okay? And the airport will start about that same time too. So you'll have going on in Brook Park and the airport, that'll happen simultaneously. We're open in 29, they're supposed to be open in 31, okay? Bedrock is, I don't want to say think of it as running a marathon, will be ongoing for the next 15 years. The lakefront will start in 5 years. So it's not like all 4 of them are starting at the same time. Now here again, those are complicated, not easy projects. I would say one of the things is think about being additive. Like, let's try to add to the pie. That's what growing successful communities do. Let's try to add to the pie. And that's what I think we're all trying to do. And hopefully that'll happen if we will work together.
Yeah, we can write a great story for Cleveland that people from everywhere will look to what Cleveland's doing and how exciting it is with all these projects. So that's the story that really needs to come out.
You're
Because you
talking
guys are
about
so
3.5 years to build a stadium, which isn't that much longer than it took to build the current one, which I know people have described as hastily built. So what's your confidence level that you're going to be able to build a quality product on that timeline?
Really high. Really
Why?
high. Well, I would say this. I
Like
don't
our
know if it
team.
was hastily built or hastily designed, but I think common sense would dictate you would not have 2/3 of your seats in the upper deck and 1/3 in the lower deck. So, and remember, we've been working on this. We started working, help me out, Dee or Peter, when did we start working on
5
stadium
years?
plans?
2017, 16.
Yeah.
And we're seriously working on stadium plans 3 or 4 years ago, so it didn't just all come together, right? So we've been working on it, and we're continually working to refine it.
That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.